Welcome one and all to another Borderlands 4 video, and today we talk about an interview I watched over at WellPlayed, and the link to the full thing will be in the description below for anyone interested. It was a really great interview and I highly recommend watching the full thing. Now, for those that want the abbreviated version, this interview was with 3 individuals over at Gearbox that are in charge of the narrative of Borderlands 4 in some way. Now, to kick things off, we have Sam Winkler, the narrative director of Borderlands 4, who says early on in this interview that the creative director of Borderlands 3, Paul Sage, had a, quote, mandate, as Sam Winkler put it, and that mandate was to, quote unquote, have a joke per minute. This was the philosophy Borderlands 3's narrative was built on. Mike Newman was the original Borderlands lead writer and was initially involved in the setup/writing of Borderlands 3, but due to health reasons had to step away from the job, which is when Sam Winkler and Danny Homan took over the writing responsibilities. Now I have a short clip of Sam Winkler talking about some things to give you guys some context, and then I'm going to give you guys what I think all of this kind of means and read between the lines a little bit. Here we go.
Borderlands 3 from the jump had a sort of mandate to be a certain joke per minute type of storytelling.
Really? There was a metric?
Well, I mean, there wasn't a hard number, I'll say, but there was the creative director of the project felt that was the intent that they wanted to go for Borderlands 3. When I and Danny Homan, the other lead writer of Borderlands 3, came on, the story was pretty much set, and so we were executing on a plan. Okay. And so we're like, okay, all right, we're starting from the ground up here. What do we want to do for Borderlands 4? So let's take some risks, right? Let's bump the needle towards seriousness, towards grounded character-based storytelling. Let's still tell jokes. I don't think anyone wants to ship a Borderlands game without humor, but let's let the humor arise from circumstances that are in universe, right? As opposed to, hey, remember that thing, right? Of course, there's cultural references, there's pop culture stuff, absolutely. There's dumb little side jokes and everything like that. But we wanted to give the player a chance to immerse themselves in a way that they maybe hadn't in previous things. I'll let Taylor and Lin also try this one.
To me, the way Sam Winkler mentions things like coming into the project when things were already set and he's just executing a plan, then following those statements with saying how he gets to start from the ground up, and talks about how he implements humor, hearing how his philosophies differ so much from what Borderlands 3 did, this really feels like a strong statement that he wasn't a fan of some of the decision making around Borderlands 3 either. At the very least, he gets that we as the community weren't satisfied with the way the humor and story were told. To me, this should be uplifting to hear directly from the narrative director of Borderlands 4 himself, for anyone who may still have worries about the story. I'm not saying this guarantees anything, but it certainly is nice to hear his philosophies and how much they differ from Borderlands 3. Lin Joyce, the managing director of narrative properties, adds on to this and says something really interesting as well. Take a listen.
About treating the planet of Kairos as one of the main characters. And that also means giving that character room to speak and breathe. And what that really means in the writer's room is sometimes silence is the choice, right? Like, let the world be present with the player. And so that also helps, like, to Sam's point, it wasn't the let's fill this silence with a joke, right? We can get comfortable with this silence and use it as an immersion technique.
This quote specifically made my brain spark and spin and makes me think the writers behind Borderlands 4 completely understand the task at hand. They understand what we want. This made me think of Borderlands 1 immediately. If you haven't played Borderlands 1, the game really gives a great feeling of desolate desert, post-apocalyptic, Wild West vibes between the quietness and ambient music, a world where you're on your own and everyone is looking out for themselves. Obviously, Kairos is different from Pandora if you've paid attention to trailers at all, but the way the game Borderlands 1 lets the world and atmosphere speak for itself is exactly what it sounds like they're doing here in Borderlands 4, and that has me really excited. Jumping ahead in the interview, Lin Joyce, the managing director of Narrative Properties, had some really interesting insight on the 4 new playable Vault Hunters and how they wrote them / voiced them. Something that hasn't been quite done before in Borderlands. Sounds like it will be introduced in Borderlands 4, and I'll play the clip for all of you now so you can hear it for yourselves.
Because I also, I appreciate it as a kind of magic trick that we have to do, right? That we have to perform, where those Vault Hunters are always responding to the same NPC input, right? And so to find the way to have these very similar, it's the same NPC input, but how is each of the Vault Hunters going to respond uniquely, right? How do we bring their character through in this moment, but then still branch it back down to this more linear path? And so we put a lot of work into that. We think at the level of that specific line, what is the opportunity for character here? But what I would also say is we also got to do more in Borderlands 4 because there are also unique lines. So Vex as a character might have a conversation that only Vex gets to have, right? And so that it was something that so it is a magic trick, but we also got to do something even more special. Sam, go for it.
No, I mean, from
So it sounds like in Borderlands 4, each character may have some unique, character-specific conversations occasionally. This is really exciting to me. I don't know how much it will occur or how much it will matter. The reason I find it exciting though is the possibility to maybe have some fun, unique interactions and the possibility to have some lore to be buried within these unique interactions. I can't wait to see all this for myself after I inevitably play as every Vault Hunter in Borderlands 4. Moving on though, Sam Winkler then goes on to say that this game has by far the most dialogue of any Borderlands or even games he himself has worked on, and even goes as far to say by 1.5 to 2 times the amount of previous Borderlands games, which is extremely wild when you consider at Gamescom Randy Pitchford had said the length of the campaign is comparable to previous entries. I wonder, does this mean that much more dialogue in the campaign itself? Does this mean there's that much more side questing to be had and done and all that? I do wonder what this means for where all that extra dialogue went, especially if Borderlands 4's campaign is supposedly comparable to the length of any previous entry before. Moving on, something I listened to was talked about by Sam Winkler, and I'm not going to play the audio because it's not any one quote, it's the entire dialogue they have at this part, which is why I highly recommend y'all check it out, link down below. This one part of the interview honestly just moved me in a way emotionally, and I don't know why, but it just got me so hyped. Sam Winkler talks about writing the Vault Hunters, and he says he never trusts the script for them until they get their voice actors. He speaks on when they found the actors for each of the playable characters and letting them just riff in the booth, and how there are a good amount of unscripted lines where they just let the voice actors have fun with it while ensuring, yeah, this is 100% what this person would say, and I don't want to pull on a string just to get hopes up or something, because I've only heard and seen as much as you guys, but this really gave me Handsome Jack, Damian Clark in the booth energy. Hearing how well these voice actors allegedly fit into their roles and could just ad-lib and let lines stick is music to my ears. I've said this time and time again, but my favorite part of these character shorts is the end with the campfire moment when we get to hear all the characters interact and they all sound amazing. that is the voice actors doing an awesome job, and I always knew this since the first character short with Vex, but hearing Sam Winkler, someone who worked close with these people, say such positive things about it really gets me personally excited. Now moving on here, I have a clip of Taylor Clark, the lead writer, and Sam Winkler both talking about how they wrote The Timekeeper, and it's pretty interesting.
Yeah. I'm going to steal directly from my esteemed colleague. I remember Sam telling me at a point that Handsome Jack was like obsessed with the player, right? Handsome Jack was always, you know, he had his fingers in everything. We even learned in Borderlands 1 that he was manipulating all of that from behind the scenes. So he is fixated on us. The Timekeeper is the total opposite. He is at 1,000-mile remove. We are an ant under, you know, at his 10,000-foot view. He's got bigger fish to fry. He is a totalitarian dictator whose mind is always on the greater order, not on the individual chaotic vault hunters, until we force it right into his face.
His first mistake.
Yeah, exactly. Like the player earns that aggravated, like, okay, fine, you've got my attention. Are you sure you want it? Kind of attitude from him. There's a line in one of the story trailers that we put out where he says, he starts talking about vault hunters, and then he essentially goes, I take that personally. Who the vault hunter is and why they are here is fundamentally opposed to him, right? And so he starts out philosophically upset with us, and as we start taking shit apart around him, then it starts to become like, no, you person with the controller, fuck you, man. And that, like, if we can land that, then I think that's a really great relationship to have with a villain, right? Like, you know, we can have as many villains who have, you know, disastrous plans for the galaxy or want to rule with an iron fist, but if there's a personal relationship between the player and the villain, then all the better.
I don't really have much to say here. I just thought it was cool to get some insight behind the writing of The Timekeeper and how they went kind of the opposite direction of Handsome Jack in some ways, but also kept the player in mind so much when it comes to the villain of Borderlands 4. Honestly, I am really curious to see how it will feel going through Borderlands 4, and as they kind of talk about in there, I'm curious to see how it feels to get the Timekeeper's attention more and more. I wonder if it's kind of like a gratifying feeling, being like weirdly like, yay, you noticed me kind of thing, or is it kind of like a, yeah, take me seriously, bitch? Like, I am kind of curious to see how gratifying the writing is with the Timekeeper and the connection to the player. With that though, guys, that is everything I had to share with y'all. I highly recommend checking out the interview yourselves, link down below in the description. I only played clips I thought were important here, but there is plenty more interesting things to take away from and hear about, and so many like insightful things and backstories and whatnot to listen to that I did not talk about or play here. If you stayed this long, you're a freaking legend. Be sure to like if you liked the video, and if you love Borderlands, then consider subscribing because we talk plenty of it here. Don't forget as well, you can join the membership for $1.99 to be a real fan and enjoy these emotes, and be sure to say hi to Luke down below. You also get priority replies from me in the comments. See y'all in the next one. Peace out.